Hey guys, just before the video, I'm going to tell you about Uphold. Uphold is the service that takes care of my Brave payments. If you've heard me talk about the Brave browser before, I've gotten some blowback from people downloading that. Thank you very much. Right now, with the referral link that I have down in the description, if you join Uphold using that, you'll get $10 added to your wallet the first time you use it. So even if you're casually looking into this crypto thing, if you're a YouTuber, you can use it so you can make your own Brave payments account. It's very useful, and I've put no money into this myself. So if you want to receive the same benefit that I've gotten from Brave, go ahead and sign up for Uphold using my referral link, and you'll receive $10 for free. Anyways, on to the video. Night Terrors is the latest game from Freak Zone Games, the creators of Manos the Hands of Fate the game and AVGN Adventures. It is a mix between an endless runner and a roguelite action game, and where you need to make your way through several horror-themed levels by slaying enemies and dodging obstacles to gain points to reach higher levels. Where this game differs from others in those genres is with the variety it offers with several different modes of play. First, there is Normal Mode. It follows the rules where you slay enemies and dodge obstacles to get points, however there are a few differences. For one, unlike most endless runners, you actually have a health meter, so you can take up to 3 hits. The enemies are randomized to a point where the further you get, the more random it becomes. At the top there's a progress bar for how many points you have, which blinks when you're one enemy away from passing a stage, and a meter for how many enemies have passed by. If you run out of health or let 3 enemies pass you, it's game over. However, the progress and enemies miss bars will reset after each level. Once you've made it past level 6 in normal mode, that will unlock Flight Terrors mode. This mode is basically like Flappy Bird. Let me explain. The entire time the ground is spiked, so you have to constantly press the jump button to flap your wings to avoid touching the ground. This mode features a ton more obstacles to pass through. You still have 3 hearts to start off with, however the progress and missed enemies bar are gone, as this mode is only used to score points. Getting 50,000 points in Flight Terrors, you'll unlock Endless Night mode. This is exactly like it sounds like. An endless mode where you play through stages similar to normal mode except with no progress bar, meaning for the entire run your missed enemies bar does not reset, so you can only let a total of 3 enemies be missed the entire run. At first I thought hitting the 100,000 points threshold to unlock the next mode would be impossible here, but I ended up doing it in my first attempt, so I guess it's not as bad as I thought, or I'm just that good, but probably not that. After gaining that 100,000 points, K-Type mode is unlocked. Referential name aside, K-Type is like a mix of normal and Flight Night modes, with the addition of throwing daggers to make it more like a shoot-'em-up game. Like I said, being a mix of the 2 previous modes meant the progress and enemies miss bars are back, as well as the constant flight due to spikes in the ground. This mode is quite challenging and took a lot of my gameplay time. For real, it took me several hours before I was able to unlock the last mode. Finally, we have Nightmare mode. This mode is similar to Endless mode, except you only get 1 hit point and you can't miss any enemies. I can only get a few levels before failing, but this could also be because I was fatigued from a solid 2 hours of playing K-Type mode trying to unlock Nightmare. The game contains a variety of enemies that change and increase as you progress through each mode. First off, there's zombies, which aimlessly walk around the ground, bats that fly in a straight line and look cracked out, floating skulls which fly in a W pattern, UFOs that jitter up and down the screen, ghosts that randomly appear at the worst times, and Jingxi which jump up and down. Other than enemies, you also have obstacles to deal with, such as ground spikes and logs with pointy ends. The height of the logs vary, and in later stages they move up and down. Luckily, the game has plenty of unlockable power-ups. Power-ups can be found during gameplay, such as the health recovery hearts. However, reaching certain point thresholds will add more power-ups to the game, such as the throwing axe of despair, which throws in an arc like a certain other game's axe weapon, the stick of returning, a boomerang-style weapon, the health expander, which fully restores your health and adds an extra heart to your life bar, the spike ball, which is a spiky metal ball that'll bounce on the ground, and the Spirit Nashwan, which unleashes all the weapon power-ups at once for 10 seconds. After unlocking, these power-ups appear randomly as you play through the levels. The weapon power-ups, with the exception of the Spirit Nashwan, are lost once you are hit, and any life power-ups are reset after each playthrough. The visuals go for an 8-bit aesthetic that feel like a mix of NES and ZX Spectrum. The sprites are fairly chunky, something that wasn't as common on home consoles, but home computers at the time would do. So it's a good mix of styles. However, like many retro throwbacks, it does not stay within these limits. But that's totally fine by me. Much like the graphics, the sound also follows the same aesthetics. The sound and music are both authentic, but much like the visuals, they are not hampered by the same limitations. The lazy part is the sound effects, which, like I mentioned in my Kid Trip review, are sourced from other Freak Zone games, such as AVGN Adventures. This isn't really a negative, but it's something that's very much noticeable. I also have a few gripes. First off, the controls are pretty bad. What I mean by this is that the controls are placed in a very mobile-like fashion. For starters, you can control this game a various amount of ways. The way the game recommends is using L to jump and R to attack. This works for both bumpers and Z triggers. You can also use Y to jump and A to attack, which brings me to my issue. The controls are backwards. Having the L and R setup reminds me of the screen buttons similar to Target Acquired. However, for side-scrolling games, I prefer to use face buttons, and sadly, it's nearly impossible to play this game with them. Making Y the jump button goes against everything I know as a gamer, as everyone knows the jump button is usually to the right or the bottom, not the left. On top of this, there's no way to change the controls, and actually, there's barely any game settings whatsoever. This is something that is unacceptable in 2018. We should have full control to adjust the controls any way we want, yet many developers don't offer that as an option, and it's games like Night Terrors which show how bad this can be. Like I said, I got used to the L and R setup, but many times I took hits because my hands kept getting tired. Also, it was very hard for me to differentiate L and R presses. Ever tried playing drums but you can't seem to get your right foot and your right arm to do different timings? That is my issue with the L and R setup, and why K-type mode took me so long to pass, because I had to synchronize my button presses, and that just isn't effective for a game like this. If this were the PC version, worst case scenario, I could always use joy to key, but on console, there's no way to change the controls. Bottom line, let me map my own controls. For what it's worth, Night Terrors is a fun and addicting game. Its expansion on the endless runner and roguelike genres is admirable, and I had less of a problem with the quirks of these genres here than I did in other games. While the main gameplay can get repetitive, the plethora of additional modes of play expands what otherwise would be a fairly one-note game. Just be aware of the lackluster controls. If you're like me and you've been skeptical of games like this, Night Terrors is one I certainly recommend, as it breaks the mold that many games of a similar nature fail to achieve. That's all for this edition of Quick Hunts. See you next time. Hey guys, thanks again for watching another Halloween-themed Quick Hunts. Special thanks to my backers on Patreon. If you're not too spooked yet, consider subscribing to my channel and hitting that bell for regular upload notifications. If you'd like to stay up to date with my many projects, you can follow me on Facebook at Zeromaster fanpage, follow me on Twitter at Zeromaster, support me on Patreon where you can get early access to videos, behind-the-scenes extras, video progress updates, and several other bonuses, and follow me on twitch.tv/ZeromasterLP where I stream every Tuesday and Thursday at 8:30 p.m. Eastern Time. And if you're still not terrified, check out some of these videos. On the left, I'll have my last Quick Hunts on Bloodstained Curse of the Moon, and on the right, I'll promote somebody else's video. Thanks again for watching, more spoops are on the way.